Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started, but first I'd ask anybody, I'd ask you to silence your cell phones, so we can get started. Today we're going to keep our remarks very short, and our goal is to allow every person here to ask a question if they'd like. So we'll do one question per person until everybody gets a chance, and then if we have time at the end, we'll do some follow-ups. So with that, it's my pleasure to introduce Captain Downey, Federal On-Scene Coordinator, United States Coast Guard.
Good afternoon, everyone. The safety of the public and the responders continue to be our top priority throughout this incident. I'm happy to say that we've made a lot of progress in terms of recoverable product on the water. Hundreds of response personnel have continued to work nonstop since the onset of the oil spill, and we are working diligently in every facet of this incident to remove the oil from the waters, beaches, and the release site. This morning's oil observation overflight covered much of the same areas as before and also extended further offshore. Only widely scattered areas of light oil were observed offshore. The remaining oil continues to dissipate. I'd like to remind everyone to remain clear of the affected areas. A restricted airspace is still in effect for your safety and the safety of the responders. Again, our top priority is the safety of the community and our first responders, and we thank you for all of your support.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce Captain Mark Crossland, State On-Scene Coordinator, Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mark Crossland, the Captain with the Department of Fish and Wildlife, Office of Spill Prevention and Response. Staff from the California Department of Fish and Wildlife continue our mission of protecting wildlife and the environment. Caring for the environment is not only our mission, but it's also our passion, and we'll be here as long as it takes to provide for the restoration of our environment here in the Central Coast. We sincerely appreciate how strongly the community wants to help the environment and the desire to volunteer. At this time, the Unified Command is utilizing pre-trained volunteers, including wildlife operations, answering telephones, and general support as needed. Please check with calspillwatch.dfg.ca.gov for more information or call 1-800-228-4544. The state of California has the authority to establish a fishery closure, and the purpose is to protect the public. Cal Fish and Wildlife met with local representatives of the commercial fishing industry, along with local government officials and the Santa Barbara Harbor Patrol, to help spread the word regarding the details of the fishery closure, as stated in our press release back on Thursday, May 21st. Fish and Wildlife is utilized as one of our large law enforcement patrol boats to actively patrol this fishery closure area. Wildlife recovery teams are responding to reports of oiled wildlife away from the spill site. Animals like pelicans and sea lions can move long distances quickly, so these animals may get oiled near the spill source, then move to other areas. Observations of oiled wildlife far from the spill location should not be interpreted as a sign the oil has spread that far, but moreover that animals move much more quickly than oil. Wildlife recovery teams have special training, and again, if the public sees impacted wildlife, please contact the Oiled Wildlife Care Network at 1-877-823-6926. And now it is my pleasure to introduce Dr. Michael Zaccardi with the University of California, UC Davis, and he'll talk more about wildlife restoration. Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Zaccardi with UC Davis's Oiled Wildlife Care Network to give a brief update on the animals that have been collected to date during this response. As of 10 o'clock this morning, we have collected 10 live oiled birds, which are currently receiving care at our Los Angeles facility. Additionally, we've collected 3 live oiled marine mammals. Unfortunately, one of those animals has died overnight. Currently, we're having an expert veterinary pathologist examine that animal to try to determine the cause of that mortality. Additionally, we have recovered 5 dead birds from the field and 2 dead marine mammals. One of those, a common dolphin, did receive a full necropsy or a post-mortem examination this morning, and there was no oil evident either externally or internally within the gastrointestinal system. So that animal appears to not be visibly oiled. The good news is, of the 10 live birds that are in care, we have successfully washed 5 of them, and they're currently receiving excellent care in our aviaries, awaiting time for their release. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doctor. It's now my pleasure to introduce Director Ryan Rockebrand, Local On-Scene Coordinator, Santa Barbara Director of Office of Emergency Management.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Ryan Rockebrand. I'm the Director of Emergency Management here for Santa Barbara County and serving as the Local On-Scene Coordinator and Unified Command. The Emergency Operations Center remains at a Level 3 activation. We are fully staffed. We're working very closely with our counterparts in the California Governor's Office of Emergency Services in this response effort. We have over 100 county staff currently assisting in the effort. Offices include Emergency Management's Executive Office, County Fire, Sheriff, Public Works, Public Health, Planning and Development Department, Energy Division, General Services, and a number of other departments and agencies assisting. County Santa Barbara, along with the City of Goleta, have proclaimed local states of emergency, as well as a campus emergency at the University of California, Santa Barbara. We're working very closely with our counterparts in the region as well. We've had assistance come in from Ventura County, Los Angeles County, and a number of other partners throughout the state. County beaches do remain open at this time. However, we do have signage postage up in English and Spanish, and they provide warnings not only to touch oil, but in fact that is found, but references of how to report those findings. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. It's now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Rick McMichael, Senior Director of Operations, All-American Pipeline.
Good afternoon. I'm Rick McMichael, Senior Director of Operations with Plains All-American Pipeline. We've had another good day of progress. There were approximately 17 vessels on the water this morning. 2 new ocean vessels have been brought in to assist with the cleanup efforts. One is a 90-foot offshore platform boat that will work in conjunction with the boom tows to collect any remaining oils from the kelp beds. The other is a deck barge and tow, another type of work platform that will be used close to the shore in support of the cleanup operations. As with yesterday, the skimmer boats have collected negligible amounts of oily water because the remaining oil is not thick enough to be recovered on the water. In terms of the excavation, we have suspended our efforts for the time being and have shifted to removing some bins of contaminated soil and beach debris. These are being taken to a location where they will be stored, cataloged, and assessed to determine how much crude oil is in the material. In terms of the release site, we are continuing to remove oil from the pipeline and are taking deliberate steps to ensure we capture all of the oil. As of this morning, we have removed 370 barrels of oil, 15,540 gallons of oil from the pipeline. A significant amount of oil still remains to be pumped out of the affected section of pipeline, so we are installing a second tap to speed up the process. We anticipate it will still take the remainder of today and into tomorrow to remove all the oil. The recovery of these barrels could reduce our calculation of the worst case release volume. Once all the oil is evacuated from the line, the excavation of the affected section of pipe will begin in conjunction with PHMSA. I want to remind the community of our information and claims line. For those who have questions or who would like to submit a claim, the number is 866-753-3619. Finally, I just want to thank the local community for the hospitality it has shown to all of us working on the recovery. We pledge to stay here and remain aggressively engaged in this effort until the job is done. Thank you.
It's now my pleasure to introduce Mr. Patrick Hodgins, Senior Director of Safety and Security, All-American Platform.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you again for being here. Before I get into the details, I want to talk about the significance of this weekend. As we enter the Memorial Day weekend, I want to take a moment to recognize the men and women in blue who are standing alongside of us and leading the response effort. The Coast Guard, along with all other members of the armed services, as well as of all their families, make incredible sacrifices every day. I know I have 2 sons who serve in the military with numerous tours. This group has been here all week, giving up their weekend, which is very special to them and their families. And we regret that this incident has pulled you away, and we thank their families and them dearly. We also recognize this Memorial Weekend is a time for the residents of California and visitors to gather on the beaches with their families. And again, we want to apologize for any changes in your plans this incident has caused, and we hope that everyone enjoys the weekend nonetheless. So turning to the incident, I would like to clarify a couple of points about the pipeline. First, I want to talk about the types of valves on the pipeline. The pipeline is equipped with 1 check valve and 3 remotely controlled valves on this particular system. The check valve is one that automatically closes if oil were ever to begin to reverse flow in the pipeline. The remotely controlled valves are operated by our Midland Control Center via a supervisory control and data acquisition SCADA system. The SCADA system monitors the pipeline and provides real-time feedback to our operators. Our SCADA system is programmed to automatically shut down pumps, not valves. So keep in mind, pumps are what move the flow of oil throughout the pipeline. It is much safer for operators who understand the operations of the pipeline to shut it down following a planned sequence of steps than for a computer to automatically close a valve on oil that is traveling in a confined space under high pressure. This is all standard operating procedures within our industry. Our system operates no differently than any other liquid pipeline system within the industry across the United States. All aspects of the pipeline's condition and its operations at the time of the release are fully under review and will be subject to the investigation into the cause of the release. The investigation will be conducted in line with federal guidelines and in conjunction with federal investigators, and all of this data will be made public at the conclusion of the investigation. Secondly, about the inspections we have conducted on the pipeline itself. We inspect our pipelines on a regular schedule and document these inspections as required. We also run tools throughout the pipeline that essentially takes a sonogram of the walls of the pipeline, measuring the thickness. This type of inspection is normally part of our integrity management program that has been designed along federal guidelines and is regularly reviewed by PHMSA in the form of inspections. These inspections return a great deal of data that require months to be turned into actionable findings. Finally, Plain utilizes the most state-of-the-art technology and advanced tools available to our industry to operate, inspect, and maintain our pipeline systems. And again, thank you to the men and women in blue. Thank you for your support, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're now going to open up to questions, and just as a reminder, our goal today is to get everybody an opportunity to ask questions. We're just going to start from this side of the room. Ma'am?
Thank you. Fran Farina with Senator Jackson's office to the Coast Guard. Can you confirm that no dispersants have been used on the ocean? And if they haven't, why isn't this part of the public information that's been released?
I can confirm that no dispersants have been used as part of this response.
Can or can't?
I can confirm that no dispersants have been used as part of this response.
And will it be part of the public information?
We can
Ma'am, we have time for one question, so we'll get the follow-up. But what I can say is we have confirmed that we are not using dispersants in our press releases, in our social media outreach, and on our website. I can gladly provide that material to you following this briefing. Next question. Yes, ma'am?
Kind of a follow-up. What these people out here are wanting to know is, would you put in writing that you not only have not but will not use dispersants in connection with this spill until it is completely cleaned up? That's what they want to know. Can you give us that?
Ma'am, what I can tell you is that we have not made any decisions regarding dispersants. We have not begun any plans for dispersants, and it's a lengthy process for us to be able to use those. So if we do, the community will be the first to know, and we will reiterate that in our outreach materials to the community.
You'll stop a lot of this noise if you'll just take them off the docket because they're unsafe.
Thank you, ma'am.
The other question is whether they're...
Ma'am, one question.
Just following up on her question because we've been asking and you haven't given us any answers.
Yes, ma'am.
The other question is, why aren't the workers wearing respirators?
I think that's a question for.
I can answer that.
Yes, sir.
The health department's not here, but we have what we call an AirNet over the entire area through a third-party contractor, and we have live feed coming into our command post that tells us what the atmosphere is out there. To date, as you heard the doctor from I think it's the Santa Barbara Health Department, we have had no exposures on unhealthy levels. While you may have the nuisance smell of the vapors, there is no exposures that require any type of respiratory protection whatsoever. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna go with you, ma'am. Excuse me? I don't believe we are using detergents. We haven't incorporated any detergents in the cleanup operation. Yes. I'm not aware of any, but we'll have to get back to you. Javier?
Have you seen the ruptured pipe?
No, we have not. We have to safely evacuate that piece of pipe and work with PHMSA to do an excavation to look at the affected section of pipe.
Gotcha. And how long will it take to evacuate the pipe?
We just, we're going to get through the entire room, then we'll do follow-ups. We've got plenty of time. Any more questions on this side of the room? Okay, yes, sir?
Will Carr with Fox News. I have a question for Mr. Hodgins. Several members of the public have told us they believe that your company is putting its bottom line ahead of safety. How would you respond to that?
I will tell you, as we reported the other day, we continue to improve and have spent over $1.3 billion to continue to upgrade our systems to make them safer and more environmentally responsible. And we have doubled our staffs in the area of health and safety and environmental and integrity management. So I would not agree with that statement whatsoever. Safety is a core value. It's not just a priority, it is a core value, and we do not put dollars in front of safety.
Any questions? Yes, sir.
Yes, for you, sir, as well. It's about the auto shut-off system. So a local energy director for Santa Barbara said yesterday that yours is the only pipeline in the county that does not have an auto shut-off system. Can you explain why that is and why?
I'm not sure what that individual is comparing us to. There's a big difference between operating a liquid pipeline versus a gas pipeline. So I really don't have the details he's referring to. Our systems are designed. We have to operate them in compliance with federal guidelines. This is a line governed under the PHMSA regulations, and our lines do have all the necessary safety technology advance on them.
Quickly, could you explain why it's better not to have auto shut-off in this case? Why it's better to do it manually?
And again, we have automatic valves, and they are monitored 24/7 by qualified individuals.
Is there anybody in the back? Yes, sir.
I have a question. With wildlife showing up at areas that are far outside of the spill, have you added more wildlife recovery teams? If not, why?
Sure.
Thank you, sir. That's a good question. At this moment, I don't know if we've added additional teams, but we do have trained experts out in the field. that have been recovering wildlife, and as Dr. Sicardi mentioned, we have a process whereby we're taking care of those and restoring them as quickly as we can.
Sir? Any more questions in the back? All right, so sir, we're just going to start again from this side and work our way over for follow-ups. Yes, ma'am?
Fran Farina with Senator Jackson's office. I have a question regarding Memorial Day traffic. Previous releases have indicated that there would be closures on 101. Will those remain in effect throughout the holiday weekend?
So I think the current state of the closures as they are right now are being coordinated with the Sheriff's Office and California Highway Patrol. So we still see certain exits that are closed to handle response and recovery crews that are moving in and out of the area. But we're looking at that on a day-by-day basis based on the needs of the mission. So currently what we have right now in place, we will be able to revisit that probably come tomorrow's operational period. To my understanding, what you're seeing right now on the highways is what we're expecting throughout the weekend.
Yes, ma'am, in the back.
Could you describe the process and the materials that you are going to use to get the oil off the rocks?
I don't think we have that information right now. We're evaluating how we're gonna get the oil off the rocks and the process that we'll use. I'll gladly get with you after this, get your contact information, and report back.
So no oil has been taken off the rocks yet? Is that what you're saying?
I guess you're referring to the large rocks on the beach.
Yeah, the rocks along the beach.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know, and I'll have to get back with you on that. Okay. Yes, sir. Javier.
How many personnel do you guys have going today and tonight? What kind of operations will be going on overnight?
Captain.
So currently there are 654 personnel assigned to the response from federal, state, and local agencies, as well as hired contractors dedicated to cleaning the spill. So 17 skimming vessels and 3 helicopters are also employed in this effort. As far as night operations, that's considered and determined on a day-to-day basis based on the weather and other conditions that would make it conducive to cleaning and conducting the operation safely and effectively.
And how many of those private contractors are there?
I don't believe we have that, but Javier, I'll get with you after, and we can give you an agency-by-agency listing. Anything else? Yes, ma'am? We'll get over there. We're going all the way around. Yes, ma'am.
If there was a decision to use detergent cleaner, how would the public know about it? Where would they go to find out?
You can visit our website at refugioresponse.com, and we're providing updates on that website regularly about our efforts and our progress. Yes, sir.
Is there a dollar estimate yet on the overall recovery, and who's putting the bill?
We are keeping track of that. It takes some time, as you can understand, to get the total. But what's really important for us at Plains is to respond to this incident as quickly and safely as possible and minimize any further impact. At the end of the day, Plains Pipeline will be responsible for taking care of the costs associated with this event.
In its entirety?
We will be responsible for everything involved in this spill. Thank you.
So I'll get to the back, and I'll just, sir, this is your first question, correct? Yeah?
Mr. McMichael.
Yes, sir.
Has All-American used dispersants and other venues, and if so, are there funds set aside beforehand to cover potential health impacts?
We have not. There have been no dispersants used on the site right now.
Elsewhere, has All-American used dispersants and other venues?
I don't know the answer to that, to be honest.
If they are used here, do you anticipate posting bond to cover potential health effects?
Plains All-American, our first responsibility and obligation is to the health and safety of our employees out there, the affected community, and the environment. We'll work with the Unified Command to create plans to address those issues as they come up.
And we can probably take your information and follow up with you as well. Yes, sir, in the back?
If I can follow up on the question about wildlife rescue teams, is it also in the state's interest? This is for Mr.
Crossland.
Gentleman from Fishing Game.
Yes, sir.
Let's hear the question.
Okay, let's hear the question.
And this is more, isn't it in the state's interest to have more people out looking for injured wildlife as well as dead ones? Because that's going to go toward the damages against planes at some point.
I can go ahead and address that since I'm the one who's managing the wildlife recovery teams. We have increased the number of wildlife recovery teams as it's become apparent the impacted animals may be beyond the area where we were originally covering. So we are cascading resources in. Our teams do collect all live and all dead animals out there. They're officially cataloged. They are collected as evidence so that any response-related and post-response-related activities can have the accurate data.
I guess the question is because when I was on the beach, I had seen a pelican that was dead. It was removed by people who had gone down and cleaned it themselves because it took a day before people from planes had gotten there. And it doesn't seem like there was as much staff early on since it may have been picked up.
Well, within the state of California, we have over 2,000 pre-trained individuals who can be cascaded into the spill as the response occurs. What we're currently doing is breeding teams of experts to capture and collect animals as the needs occur. The nice thing within our state, we have that readiness available to be able to mobilize them at a moment's notice.
Thank you, Doc. Anything else in the back? Okay, we've got about time for a couple more questions. So, Javier, we're going to go to you.
As a follow-up for the doctor, how far away have you seen oiled animals from the site?
We have observations of oiled animals as far east as Ventura. We also have reports of lightly oiled animals that are still flighted north of Point Conception. However, those animals that are observed north appear to be healthy, just having oil on them. Our concentrated efforts right now, currently, are between Ventura and the point, though. Okay.
Thank you, sir. So we're doing pretty good on time, so we can get a couple more questions. So, ma'am, here.
Just to clarify, the oil in the water, is it exclusively lightweight or is it heavy oil in the water?
I think we have an expert from NOAA here, Mr. Jordan Stout, who can speak to that.
Good afternoon, my name is Jordan Stout. I'm the Scientific Support Coordinator with NOAA's Emergency Response Division. So most oils are floating oils. This oil that was spilled in this incident was also a floating oil. There is a potential if floating oil comes into a beach to pick up sand and get a little heavier. We're aware of that possibility and we're looking at it closely to see if that might change the nature of the oil.
Thank you. Ma'am?
I have one question for the Plains gentleman, and this goes back to the statement about your employee's discovery at 1:30 on the first day of the incident. Could you clarify, was that discovery at the pipeline site or at the culvert site on the beach?
I'm not sure of the question. Could you clarify the question, please?
Well, on the timeline that was provided by Plains between when you started having your pump issues until your employee identified the site of the leak, that was at 1:30. And what was not clear was that discovery by the employee at the site of the pipeline where you could see it on the ground, or was it on the beach by the culvert?
I'll have to get back with you. I'm not sure exactly where that discovery was made. Thank you.
Yeah, and we're looking really good on time, so we'll keep moving. Yes, sir.
Follow up for the doctor. The number of animals that you've taken into rehab seems relatively low. Do you anticipate that number to continue to go up, or do you think the majority of wildlife in the area have dodged the bullet?
It's an excellent question. On a typical spill, the largest number of live animals that come in are between days 2 and day 5 of a response. We're not assuming that is the case in this situation, so we're keeping teams out in the environment as long as we have to be able to safely and effectively recover all the live animals that might be out there.
Thank you. So, one more question? Yes, sir?
Yeah, Captain, you may know the answer to this.
What agency were you with, sir?
Okay, you may know the answer to this. If dispersants are used, how far ahead of time will the public be notified, and where would they find that notification?
Yes, sir, that's a lengthy process, and we haven't arrived at any decision. Once we do, we will let the public know on our response website and as many methods of communication as we possibly can. And if you'd like, I can also follow up with you after this press briefing. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for coming out. We really appreciate your time. We appreciate you telling the story. Please, if you have any follow-up questions, just see me at the podium. I'll gladly take those for you. If I can't answer them, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. All right, thank you.